What if I told you that beneath the quiet earth of Xi'an, in central China, lies a tomb said to contain entire rivers of liquid mercury? An ancient engineering feat so ambitious that even today, scientists are hesitant to uncover it. The burial place of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, is one of the greatest archaeological mysteries in the world. We know what stands above the ground: thousands of life-size terracotta warriors, each sculpted with unique faces, lined up in eternal formation as guardians. But what lies beneath is cloaked in secrecy. According to ancient writings, the emperor's tomb is a miniature universe, with mountains made of bronze, a ceiling inlaid with stars, and seas of flowing mercury designed to mimic the world he once ruled. Modern science has made this legend even stranger. Surveys around the tomb have revealed abnormal mercury concentrations in the soil, levels far beyond what nature could explain. Is this evidence that the ancient chroniclers told the truth? Or are we chasing after a myth magnified by centuries of imagination? In the next moments, you'll travel through the records of history, examine the latest scientific findings, and weigh both the orthodox explanations and daring alternative theories. By the end, you will be faced with a question. Is this tomb a silent monument to ancient hubris, or the key to unlocking an advanced knowledge long forgotten? 2,000 years before skyscrapers pierced the sky, a single man dreamed of building a world that would last forever. His name was Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. Born in 259 BCE, he rose from the chaos of warring kingdoms to unify the land under a single banner. For the first time, China became an empire, its people bound by one system of laws, one currency, one written script. His rule was absolute, his ambition boundless. He ordered the beginnings of what would later become the Great Wall, forging a massive defense across mountains and deserts. He standardized weights and measures so that commerce and governance could flow smoothly across vast distances. To many, he was a visionary. To others, a tyrant obsessed with control, even over death itself. And it was death that troubled him most. Terrified of mortality, Qin Shi Huang dispatched envoys to search for the elixir of life. Legends tell of expeditions sent to distant seas, seeking islands of immortals. Yet despite all his power, he could not escape the truth. He died in 210 BCE, leaving behind a legacy carved in stone, iron, and earth. But his most enduring monument was not above ground, it was hidden beneath it. His mausoleum, built by an estimated 700,000 laborers, is said to be the most elaborate burial complex ever constructed. Ancient records describe it as a model of his empire, a cosmic map sealed away for eternity. And here lies the central question. Did his engineers truly pour rivers of mercury into his tomb, creating an eternal world for their emperor's spirit? Or is this legend a mixture of myth, exaggeration, and wishful imagination? To answer, we must first turn to the oldest surviving account of the tomb, written by a man who never saw it himself, but whose words continue to guide every modern theory. To unravel the mystery of Qin Shi Huang's tomb, we must travel through different layers of history, science, and imagination, just as if we were peeling away the earth above the burial mound itself. Our journey begins with the ancient chroniclers, the only voices from the past who dared to describe what was hidden underground. Their words have inspired generations, but they also raise questions about accuracy, exaggeration, and political motives. From there, we move into the physical world, the astonishing Terracotta Army and the vast mausoleum complex that has already been partially uncovered. These silent guardians give us hints about the scale of the tomb and the extraordinary craftsmanship of those who built it. Then comes science. Soil surveys and chemical analyses carried out in modern times suggest that mercury, the most toxic liquid metal known, really does saturate the ground above the emperor's resting place. Is this a coincidence, contamination, or the first proof that ancient texts were right all along? But the story does not end with discovery. It extends into caution, controversy, and debate. Archaeologists today wrestle with a dilemma. Should they open the tomb at the risk of destroying fragile relics, or should they wait for technology advanced enough to peer inside without harm? Along the way, we will confront both orthodox interpretations and alternative theories. Was the tomb a symbolic universe of myth, or a real engineering marvel beyond its time? And finally, we will step back and ask, what does this sealed chamber mean for our understanding of ancient China and for humanity's relationship with its own history? So stay with this story from beginning to end, because in the end, the true mystery may not be about what lies beneath the earth, but about whether mankind should ever disturb it. Our first guide into the tomb of Qin Shi Huang is not an archaeologist or a scientist, but a historian who lived more than a century after the emperor's death. His name was Sima Qian, the grand historian of China, whose monumental work, Shiji, the Records of the Grand Historian, remains one of the greatest treasures of ancient literature. Written around 100 BCE, it is the earliest detailed description of the first emperor's mausoleum. Sima Qian paints a vision that borders on the fantastical. He describes an underground palace built on a scale that rivals an entire kingdom. The ceiling was said to be inlaid with precious stones to mimic the night sky, glittering with stars. The floor, meanwhile, was crafted to represent the empire itself, with miniature mountains rising from the earth and great rivers recreated with flowing mercury. Ingenious mechanical devices were supposedly installed to make these rivers move endlessly, shimmering like water under lantern light. According to his account, crossbows were set to fire automatically should anyone attempt to break into the tomb, a chilling reminder of the emperor's desire for eternal protection. He even claims that candles made of whale oil were placed within, designed to burn for thousands of years. To Sima Qian's readers, the tomb was not just a burial site. It was a world within a world, sealed forever. But how reliable was Sima Qian? He never saw the tomb himself. He wrote long after the emperor's death, relying on oral traditions and earlier records. Some scholars argue that his descriptions may have been exaggerated, intended as allegory rather than fact. The rivers of Mercury, for example, could symbolize immortality. The liquid metal was, in ancient Chinese belief, a substance with mystical properties, even if it was ultimately poisonous. And yet, dismissing his account as pure invention may be too simple. Later writings from other dynasties echo his description, repeating the strange story of a Mercury-filled underworld. Could it be that Sima Qian was not inventing, but preserving a truth that no one dared verify? For centuries, the words of the grand historian remained just that. Words, untested and unconfirmed. But in 1974, farmers digging a well near Xi'an stumbled upon something extraordinary. The Terracotta warriors, silent sentinels pointing us back toward the heart of the emperor's mausoleum. And with that discovery, the line between legend and reality grew thinner. In the spring of 1974, a group of farmers digging a well near the city of Xi'an struck something hard. What they uncovered was not stone, but the face of a soldier, lifelike, solemn, carved in clay. Soon, archaeologists would realize they had stumbled upon one of the greatest discoveries in modern history: the Terracotta Army, guardians of the first emperor. Over the decades, thousands of these clay warriors have been unearthed. Each figure is unique, different hairstyles, armor, facial expressions, lined up in precise military formation. Horses, chariots, archers, and generals, all frozen in time, standing watch over their emperor's eternal rest. It is estimated that more than 8,000 figures exist, though many still lie buried. This extraordinary find revealed that Qin Shi Huang's tomb was not a single chamber, but a sprawling underground city. Archaeological surveys suggest the mausoleum stretches over 50 square kilometers, with dozens of pits and structures surrounding the central burial mound. The warriors themselves are only the beginning, just the outer defenses of something far more ambitious. Orthodox scholars see the Terracotta Army as an extension of Chinese funerary tradition. Rulers were often buried with goods, servants, and symbols of power to accompany them into the afterlife. But the sheer scale here is unmatched. No other tomb in the ancient world attempted something on this level. Some researchers argue that this reveals Qin Shi Huang's obsession not only with life after death, but with recreating his empire underground, brick by brick, soldier by soldier. Alternative thinkers suggest that the sheer magnitude of the site hints at deeper secrets. If thousands of warriors were crafted to protect him, what unimaginable treasures or dangers might be concealed in the emperor's inner chamber? The discovery of exotic pigments, advanced bronze weaponry resistant to rust, and intricate chariot designs shows that Qin engineers possess skills far ahead of their time. Could the same be true for the construction of his hidden tomb? The Terracotta Army proves one thing beyond doubt. Sima Qian's descriptions were not fantasy. They were rooted in truth, even if embellished. If the soldiers he wrote about were real, what about the rivers of Mercury? Could that too be more than just a metaphor? To answer that question, modern science stepped in, not with shovels and picks, but with tools of measurement and detection. And what it found beneath the soil of Xi'an would bring the old stories back to life in an unexpected way. In the late 20th century, archaeologists faced a dilemma. Qin Shi Huang's tomb mound loomed large, but to open it meant risking irreparable damage. Instead, scientists turned to non-invasive methods, remote sensing, soil sampling, and chemical analysis, to see what secrets the Earth itself might reveal. The results were astonishing. Starting in the 1980s and continuing into the early 2000s, surveys detected unusually high concentrations of mercury in the soil surrounding the burial mound. In some areas, the levels were dozens of times higher than natural background values. These findings echoed Sima Qian's account almost too perfectly. The historian had described rivers and seas of mercury inside the tomb nearly 2,000 years before anyone had the means to measure it. Orthodox scholars raised caution. Perhaps the readings were skewed by modern pollution. After all, industrial activity can contaminate soil with heavy metals. But the pattern of mercury distribution told another story. The concentrations appeared in distinct, localized clusters, rather than spreading evenly like pollution would. Some scientists noted that the hotspots aligned suspiciously with the positions where ancient texts claimed the rivers of mercury had once flowed. Alternative theorists seized upon this as evidence that the first emperor's builders truly achieved the unthinkable. They may have mined mercury ore, refined it into liquid form, and poured it into sealed channels within the tomb. If so, Qin Shi Huang would have rested within a miniature cosmos powered by a metal that symbolized both life and death, believed to grant immortality, but in reality, a deadly poison. The strength of this evidence is tantalizing, modern science confirming a claim once dismissed as myth. Yet it is incomplete. Without opening the tomb, no one can be certain. The risk is enormous. Mercury vapor is toxic, and opening the sealed chamber could expose both archaeologists and priceless artifacts to irreversible harm. Still, the convergence of ancient text and scientific data raises the probability far above coincidence. What once sounded like legend now sits on the edge of possibility, waiting in silence beneath the earth. But here we arrive at a crossroads. If the Mercury is real, why has the tomb not been opened? What stops modern science from unlocking the last secrets of the first emperor? The answer lies not only in technology, but in ethics, preservation, and a fear of what might be lost forever. By now, the pieces of the puzzle seem to align. Ancient texts speak of rivers of mercury. The Terracotta Army proves the mausoleum's staggering complexity, and modern science detects unusual mercury concentrations in the soil. And yet, the tomb itself remains sealed, untouched since the day it was completed more than 2,000 years ago. Why? Because every layer of evidence, while compelling, is still incomplete, and the risks of disturbing the site may outweigh the rewards. First, the historical accounts. Sima Qian's Records of the Grand Historian is an invaluable text, but it was written more than a century after the first emperor's death. Historians caution that his descriptions may contain embellishment, symbolism, or even political commentary. Was the river of Mercury a literal truth, or a metaphor for Qin Shi Huang's obsession with immortality? Without excavation, the question lingers in uncertainty. Next, the Terracotta Army. It is undeniable proof of the scale and ambition of Qin's burial practices. But here too, interpretation varies. Some scholars emphasize continuity with earlier traditions, warriors and goods buried with rulers, while others see an unprecedented leap in engineering, hinting at even greater wonders in the unexcavated core of the tomb. The army tells us that Sima Qian was not inventing out of thin air, but it doesn't answer the riddle of Mercury. Then, the soil surveys. Elevated mercury levels could indeed point to underground rivers of the metal, but skeptics argue that natural processes or modern contamination might explain the data. The problem is that science without direct excavation cannot eliminate these doubts entirely. Remote readings are powerful, but they are not definitive. And finally, the ethical debate. Archaeologists in China have resisted opening the tomb for one central reason: preservation. When the terracotta warriors were first unearthed, their vibrant colours, bright blues, reds and purples, faded within minutes of exposure to air. Entire layers of history were lost in the process. To open the emperor's tomb without the technology to preserve its contents would risk destroying what could be the greatest archaeological treasure in the world. Thus, we are left in a delicate balance. Strong but incomplete evidence, ancient words confirmed in part but still unverified in whole, and a site that may hold answers we are not yet ready to uncover. The debate is not only about whether the tomb contains rivers of mercury, but whether humanity has the right or the responsibility to look inside at all. And so, we must turn to the broader question. What would it mean for history, for science, and for our understanding of human ambition if the tomb of Qin Shi Huang were finally revealed? Imagine for a moment what might await behind those sealed walls. If the legends are true, Qin Shi Huang rests within a vast underground cosmos, a man-made universe where rivers of mercury flow, bronze mountains rise, and the stars themselves glitter above his eternal palace. To open such a chamber would be to step directly into the imagination of the ancient world, preserved for over 2 millennia. The impact would be enormous. For history, it could rewrite our understanding of the Qin dynasty, proving that its engineering and artistry reached levels we have scarcely imagined. For science, it would offer new data about ancient metallurgy, construction techniques, and possibly technologies we believed impossible for that age. For culture and philosophy, it would illuminate the mind of a ruler who sought to master not just his empire, but death itself. And yet, the consequences could be dire. Optimists dream of discovering artifacts as intact and dazzling as the day they were sealed. With modern preservation techniques, They hope we might finally unlock the tomb without repeating the mistakes of the terracotta warriors' faded colors. Some even believe non-invasive technologies like ground-penetrating radar, drones, or chemical imaging may one day map the entire complex without breaking a single brick. But caution prevails. The tomb may be filled not only with treasures, but also with dangers. Toxic mercury vapor, fragile relics that crumble when exposed, and mechanisms designed to protect the emperor's rest. To rush in unprepared could mean losing history forever. Moreover, there is a deeper ethical question. Does humanity have the right to disturb a grave sealed for eternity, built by the will of a man who demanded immortality in death as in life? And so, the mystery endures. The burial mound stands silent in Xi'an, a green hill sheltering secrets beneath its surface. The ancient texts, the Terracotta Army, the Mercury traces, all point towards something extraordinary. But until the day comes when science and respect for preservation find the right balance, the first emperor will continue to guard his secrets in silence. The question remains with us. Should the tomb of Qin Shi Huang ever be opened? Or is it better left untouched, a monument not just to a man, but to the limits of human knowledge and the mysteries we choose not to solve? What do you believe? Is this the world's greatest unopened treasure waiting for discovery, or a warning from history to leave the dead in peace? Share your thoughts and decide for yourself if the emperor's rivers of mercury are myth or hidden truth.